Welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending October 9th, 2015. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. If you need to, please take a moment to pause this recording so you can read this information. I'll be using examples, and those are examples of how you can use this worksheet to help make fund choices within your 401k plan. Please refer to your own investment policy to make sure that the choices that you're making are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking on risk in financial markets. Let's go ahead and go right into our worksheet. Each week we'll update this worksheet, so when you follow it on a week-over-week basis, you'll get used to all the different features in it and how to use it. It may look like a lot right here, but it's actually a pretty simple way to get a lot of information about your 401k in a simple spreadsheet. On the left side, we start out with the investment choices. The different headings include the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. At the top of this sheet, we have the core investment funds. These are primarily made up of the index funds available to you. As you scroll down the worksheet, you'll go down to the satellite investments. And generally, these are more conservative as you're closer to the top of this. And as we scroll down this, you go to the fixed income, U.S. growth, U.S. equity, and then the international funds. And at the bottom are the sector funds. At the top, they're generally more conservative. As you go down, they're generally a little bit more aggressive. Center portion of this worksheet, we have the performance for 2015. Each week we'll update these numbers so you can keep track of how your funds are doing against other funds in the category as well as other funds on this worksheet. This is helpful when you're allocating assets as well as seeing how your investment choices are performing against other investment choices available to you. Each week we update the closing price, the month-to-date return, the quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. On the right side, we have what I think is the most important part of this worksheet, and that's the relative strength trend scores. These are the current weekly trends for each of the funds in your 401k. We use red, green, and yellow cells to highlight which funds are performing the best and which ones are the laggards in this group. When you see green lights, we have the short-term, the intermediate, and long-term trends. Column U with the long-term trend is generally the most important to follow. V tells you the week-over-week trend scores, and that tells you which funds are performing the strongest on a week-over-week basis. And finally, down column W here, we have the weekly trend score. That's a numerical value. When the numerical value is above 0, you'll have a green light. When it's below 0, you'll have a red light. What's unique about this and is helpful for making investment choices as you get used to it is the numerical values each week will tell you the relative strength of the fund. As these are increasing, that means that that fund is generally becoming stronger. As these numbers are decreasing, that means that the fund is generally becoming weaker. When they transition to green cells, that's when we're generally interested in the funds because they're normally under those conditions, heading north. When there's a lot of red, that's generally a good time to be on the sidelines or very cautious in the funds, and that's a situation we've been in over the past, since August. Let's scroll down here. This also gives you a good idea of how the overall strength of the markets are. As we see all of this red, it's generally a time to be cautious, but one of the things you'll notice is down column W is a lot of the week-over-week trend scores are becoming much more positive. So to me, that's a good sign, and we're starting to see a little bit of green appearing on some of the funds. So at this point, I think it's really important to be ready to see this market rally. And if it does, you want to know which funds to move your capital into, and try to stay with the stronger funds as you make your asset allocations to each of the different categories. With that said, let's go ahead and see how we can actually use this worksheet to allocate assets within your 401k plan. To get to our asset allocation section, click on View, Custom Views, and My Current Allocation, and then click Show. This will give you a new section to your worksheet where you can keep track of how you would like to allocate your assets within your 401k. Remember, this doesn't do any of the asset allocation for you. It's simply a way to keep track of how your funds are allocated. You still have to go into your fund manager and perform the actual exchanges online on your company's website. So for right now, let's see how we can do this, though, to help make choosing those investment choices a simple and easy process. If you're not familiar with asset allocation, I'd suggest go right up to the section right up here, click on that, and it'll give you a brief questionnaire. And based on your age and your time horizon that you're looking to be invested in markets, it'll give you just a general idea of how you can allocate your funds. Down column H, we'll see that we would like to be 100% allocated, and according to this questionnaire, we've gone through and set up a target allocation for each of these different sections. Within these sections, the yellow will show us how much we actually have allocated to the sections. So let's go ahead and scroll over so we can see our red lights and see which funds are strongest, and we'll compare that with the selections that we have down column H. Our current allocation to index funds is 0, and that's because we have red lights and red and yellow lights on column U and W. As soon as we start to see these change, we will be allocating assets back to this category. Next, we have the money market fund. We have a 20% or a 10% allocation that we like to have available, but because of all the red lights, we've moved 80% of the capital to this area, and we have 20% invested right now. Let's continue scrolling down to see if there's anything we need to do this week. Our fixed income, we're seeing actually some good strength coming in. So if we see some more green lights, or we see some green lights coming in column U, we could be allocating assets to this section. Our growth in income has actually been very bullish this week too. We see that the short term has been very bullish, and we actually have one green light turning up in column U. If you're a little bit more aggressive as an investor, you'll be able to notice that for 2 weeks in a row, we've seen the relative strength on the right side of column V get stronger. And with this bullish sign here, we could actually allocate funds to this section. Let's go down a little bit further. We won't do that for now, but let's go further and see what we have. Down here, we also have a case where we've had strengthening for 2 weeks. This week got a little weaker, but we actually turned bullish here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and allocate, because of this extra green light that we have here over last week, and because we still have a yellow and the overall strength of the market, I'm going to change this allocation to 20% this week, which means that we're going to have to take 10% out of our money market, and this will move us down to 70%. So we'll make that change for this week. And let's continue scrolling down and seeing what we have. We have a fund here where we're generally seeing green. So let's wait and see. If this turns green next week, then we will make an allocation to that fund. Let's continue scrolling down. We have the international fund. Here's a similar situation where we'd like to have 30%. We have a bullish light here. And if you're going to play this aggressive, which I will do in this example, we're seeing 2 weeks in a row where the relative strength score, the numerical value, has increased. It's gone from a negative 1.98 to a negative 0.97 to a negative 0.54. So those are less negative numbers. So let's go ahead and put 20% of the capital into that fund. And again, to fund that, we're going to move 20% out of the money market, and that will take us down to 50% in the money market. So we're halfway invested because we are starting to see some bullishness in this market. Again, we don't know how long this will last, but because we're seeing the lights change, we generally like to follow them. And finally, we're down in our sector funds. Here we have two green lights that are increasing in relative strength, and the same situation here. But here we have three bullish signs in a row. So with that said, let's go ahead and allocate 10% of our capital to this fund. And with 2%, or with 10% that we allocated to this fund here, we see two red lights here, and this was a strong red fund. So what we'll do is we'll take the capital out of this fund. We'll move this from here up to one that's showing more bullishness. So we don't have to take capital out of our money market fund. We'll simply move capital because we saw the two red lights appear, and we'll go into a stronger fund that's showing four red lights as well as three on the left side. So now we have reallocated our capital. We're starting to move money back into this market as it's starting to show us strength. And again, the green light system is meant to be just like the traffic light system in your city. When you start to see green lights, you should follow them, as well as when you see red lights. That's what keeps the system organized and gives you consistent results. We're not trying to significantly outperform our market time in general. We're just trying to follow certain signals that show us where the strength is in the market, and it's giving us a technique to allocate assets and stay out of trouble if we do see a big market pullback. Let's go ahead and go back to our main worksheet, and to do that, we'll simply click on View, Custom Views, and let's go with our performance columns, and then click Show, and we're back to our main page. That's what I've got for this evening. I hope this has been helpful and has given you some ideas and resources to make choices within your 401k plan. If you'd like to find out more about the GreenLight Investor, you can always go to our website, greenlightinvestor.org. You can send me an email and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Or on our website, as well as if you email me, I can send you a copy of the worksheet that we just went over. If you send me an email, I'll put you on our mailing list, and each week you'll get an updated copy. And it just gives you an extra tool so you can go through and see how your funds are performing, and it helps with the asset allocation decisions because sometimes that becomes a little bit overwhelming. All that said, that's what I've got for the week. I hope you have a great week ahead, and want to thank you again for taking a few minutes out of your weekend to take the time to go over your investments with us. Thank you very much.